The United Democratic Movement, Build One South Africa and Numsa are just among many other interested parties taking energy regulator Nersa to the court over electricity tariff hikes. It approved Eskom's electricity price hike of 18.65%, which will be effective this April. We're now joined to tell us more about the court action by Dadubantu Olomisa of the UDM, as well as Pagabile Hlubi Majola, who speaks on behalf of Numsa. Thank you very much to our guests for availing yourselves this afternoon. Dadu Olomisa, let me start with you because the application is urgent and it is brought in two parts. Let's start with part A. What does it deal with?
Well, thank you for inviting us to come and share some thoughts around these issues. The order we are asking is an interim relief for the Eskom, Nersa and Department of Public Enterprise to make sure that there are no disruption of supply of electricity, supply of electricity to hospitals, police stations, schools, and also the equipment which supplies network in this country, because you are putting the security of the country into jeopardy if people cannot communicate from wherever they are, whether it's for requesting ambulances for emergency needs or that there is crime. So we feel that the government is very negligent on this. We are also calling for immediate suspension of the 18% increase by Nersa. We also feel strongly that there has not been any adequate answer in the last 14 years as to what is the cause of this load shedding, because we are told, today you will be told it's because the coal is wet. Tomorrow you are told the quality of the coal is not good. The other day they will tell you it's sabotage. So we are trying therefore to assist the government, because it would appear even the president doesn't know what's going on. If you want to do a proper planning for anything, you can't just plan based on a guesswork or high-level gossip. We need to consider all the factors, but this time around, the beauty about this approach is that it is unlike when we go just march and go and send demands to a police station or wherever, and then those demands are not attended to. This time around, the relevant departments and personnel will be coming to court if there is a need for an oral evidence, to take an oath. Even those who reply in writing, they would be doing so under oath and tell us what is the problem. Because nobody, as I've said, seems to know what is the actual problem which is causing this. Every now and again, it's like a guesswork. Even yesterday, they told you, they showed us a middle finger 2 days ago to say, it's going to be here for another 2 years. Stage 1 or stage 2, but sometimes they just go to stage 5, 6, and you ask yourself the question: who exactly take a decision as to it should be at this stage now? What are the circumstances which normally led them to do these things? So it looks like it's a question of incompetence at all levels.
To your point, with the Scopa chair, as Eskom is sitting in front of them today, questioning the centrality of Eskom to make decisions, asking whether they make the decisions or the decisions come from elsewhere. Why have executives if they cannot perform their fiduciary duties? That's according to the Scopa chairperson asking that question. Pagamile Hlubi Majola, you've also joined this court action. We also heard from the CFO of Eskom talking about the diesel funding model. You also also calling for the scrapping of that almost 19% tariff hike that was granted to Eskom. But we're hearing that we'll need, what, 2 billion rand for February to purchase diesel, another 2 billion rand for March, in total some 22 billion rand for the year for diesel, and that will be funded through the Nersa application. So what are the prospects of success you are looking forward to where this issue is concerned?
Thank you so much, Dudu, for having me on your show. I think the issue of diesel speaks directly to the core issue of why Numsa has decided to get involved in this application in the first place. It is quite disgraceful that there is so much money that is literally being flushed down the toilets in the form of what we're spending on diesel in order to keep the lights on. And it's very clear to us as Numsa that there are certain parties that are benefiting from this crisis. I mean, we've said this many, many times as a trade union. There are parties in the private sector, whether it's providers of diesel or providers of renewable energy, independent power producers, who are benefiting from load shedding. And unfortunately, we have a government of ministers who've long ago since cared about driving an agenda for all of us. All of them are driving individual interests which are going to fatten their pockets somewhere along the line. And this is ultimately the motivation that's brought us to the point where we are bringing this application in the first place. Because what we're asking the court to do is not just as what General Bantu Holomisa has correctly outlined, which is for them to immediately stop load shedding, particularly on certain key aspects of the economy, such as health, public education, SAPS, etc. But more than anything, we want the state to actually provide in detail the agreements that they signed with the American government, where they have agreed to shift away from relying on coal in order for them to receive $8 billion in loans. We want to know if that agreement has anything to do with the rampant load shedding that we're experiencing right now. Because we are right now suffering from a serious energy supply crisis. And Eskom is closing down power stations prematurely. As of November last year, they closed down Komati, which provides 1,000 megawatts of power. And why on earth would you close down power stations when you can't even guarantee electricity for 24-hour cycle? So for us, these are some of the questionable decisions that this government is taking. And we're wondering if these decisions are actually in our interest, because of when you look at the very devastating impact that load shedding is having on us today. We want to hold the state accountable. Unfortunately, we can't believe anything that they tell us in the media. We know that if we hold them to court, they will have no choice but to tell the truth because of the fact that they're in court. And this is why the demands that we're making are so far-reaching. We've even asked, for example, for IPP contracts, amounts that they're paying to the IPPs. We've asked also for national government to actually show us what is the plan for the just energy transition. All of the things that they're supposed to have been publicly consulting us on, we are demanding through court because they've not been honest with the South African public, and this is why we find ourselves in the situation where we are in today.
Taru Olomisa, as we wind down the conversation, like you mentioned, that Part B seeks an order that the government of the Republic of South Africa is represented by the President, the Ministers of Public Enterprises and Mineral Resources and Energy. We might see them giving oral evidence should we get there. We heard today from Andre Derrida in front of Scopa talking about the addition of new capacity, saying that if government enablers came to the table in a nutshell, there will be a significant decrease of load shedding over the next 18 months. Mr. Mpoma Kwana, the chairperson of the board at Eskom, when pressed consistently on when we can expect an end to load shedding during this session, appealing for realism and engaging each other, speaking to the board chairperson and saying we should guard against pressing Eskom to say things that we do not have, saying the 31st of March 2025 is when we can start to aspire to world-class standards. If we cannot get answers to such questions at such a basic level right now, what hope do you have that going to the courts you'll get these answers? As some pundits would say, it would appear that even themselves, they don't know what's going on.
Then we would be vindicated if they don't know what they are doing right now. Because in the last 13, 14 years, we've been speaking about the same thing all the time. They have been visiting Cape Town, presenting their plans. Even President Ramaphosa has cancelled many of his overseas trips to come and say, I'm going back to fix Eskom, and said, watch this space. There will never be another load shedding. But it's continuing. So the other thing which we need to look at, in addition with what Tehlubi has just told us, it would be interesting. In fact, we will force them. When we talk about agreements, we were misled here in this country by the ANC government, which said in order to fix this load shedding, they are going to build two plants, big plants, Medupi and Kusile. Guess what? It turned out that this was a Ponzi scheme, because ANC immediately established a company called Chancellor House and partnered with Hitachi, which was responsible for building these plants. And out of that, they got away with billions of rands. Now they come to the taxpayers again, double taxing them, to say, we don't have money, go to Nersa. Nersa must increase the prices of electricity. So we can't say yes to that nonsense. We have to say no. But if they are unable to answer or give guarantees, let that have the stamp of the courts, so that we are not listening to them. The trust issues here kicks in when we talk with Eskom and ANC, because they are not reliable.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we can afford to both our guests. Phakamile Majola speaks for NUMSA. Darubantu Holomisa is the leader of the United Democratic Movement. Thank you.